So hello, welcome to Crewe Station, and if you're watching this on the day release, then it's Christmas Day, and hope you're having a wonderful Christmas day. And I thought we'd do a chilled out run from Crewe to Preston in the fabulous APT. And of course, if you're not watching it live, then still enjoy the video anyway. And that's a HST and kind of research development mode with a APT car in the middle as well. So let's get the train set up. We'll put the master key on first of all. Put that into auxiliary for the moment. We are due away at 13:42, so let's have a quick look at the briefing. So, good afternoon, driver. Release the doors so that your VIP guests can board, then prepare to depart at 13:42. You are to run non-stop to Preston, and control have instructed all signal boxes to give you a clear run. Hopefully you will complete the journey in less than 30 minutes. CAPT in cab. Speed guides are in place from the outskirts of Crewe all the way to the approach to Preston station. Maximum speed 125 miles per hour. Known issue approaching Wigan. The CAPT warning will sound too late. Please brake according to the hub. There we go. Let's get the lights on. And actually I was a bit slow pressing the doors open there, so we're going to be a few seconds late. It really is a fabulous model, this, and it's modelled extremely well. Bear in mind this is Train Sim Classic, and it's not a new scenario. It's been out for quite a while on Alan Thomson Simulation, but I've not streamed with the APT before, either on a recorded or live video, so I thought it was about time that we could give this beast a run. You're going to hear the very strange sounds of the CAPT in action as well in a moment. It almost gives you a shock the first time you hear it. There's a Class 86 on a more conventional London Euston service. Good to see the old Mark 1 buffet in the middle as well, which was very prevalent at the time. And it's quite an advanced, if you pardon the pun, add-on from Dovetail Games for Train Sim Classic. They made quite an effort to replicate this in as much detail as possible. There's a small sound add-on as well from Alan Thomson Simulation that I've put in place as well, which just improves it slightly. We are good for 80 miles an hour already, and we'll hear that CAPT spring into life very soon. It is. So of course the story of the APT is well known. I mean, in development originally Oh, we're up to 125 already for the speed limit. That's good to know. And of course they started off with the APTE, the Advanced Passenger Train E Experimental, which set all sorts of records, but it was using gas turbine engines, which was never realistically going to be a thing in production at the time. So they built these APTP sets, prototype sets. They were built into electric mode, and then there was a bit of a delay. They were testing them and there was pressure put on them to be put into service, and they were essentially really rushed into service, and it was kind of hugely embarrassing at the time because it became a huge daily story on the news. It was sort of headline news on the 9 o'clock news on the BBC, news at 10 on ITV about the APT's broken down again and it's a national embarrassment. And it was just a pity really that they weren't given the time, British Rail, to iron out the problems. I mean, when they did, and they eventually had almost dropped the programme and they were running it on occasional services, then it ran perfectly fine most of the time. Again, if you're kind of a younger viewer, you might be thinking, well, is this a forerunner of the Pendolino? Well, in a way, but of course the Pendolinos were very much brought from Italy and was a already proven unit. They look quite different than the actual Pendolinos that we see in the UK, but basically it was the Italian Pendolino that Richard Branson bought for Virgin. I think it's fair to say some of the APT development was put into use on the Class 91. But of course that was never tilting, and that was used on the East Coast Main Line. It all started off really with British Rail trying to develop a train that could run quicker on conventional tracks, and you think of the TGV, which was obviously a grand success, great success in France, but they built completely brand new tracks, and that was beyond the scope of a nationalised railway system where really they didn't have masses of government backing, so it was essential that they developed a train that could run on conventional tracks. And of course the West Coast Main Line is very bendy, not so much on this section ironically, but once you get into the realms of Shap, Beatop, you know, you go through Cumbria and then the Lake District and into Scotland, then it's a very different proposition where it's undulating and it's very, very bendy indeed. There was kind of political pressure to get the APT into service, and probably ahead of its time. Ironically, they chose a time to do it when the weather was absolutely awful as well, and there was plenty of snow around, so none of it helped, and it failed gloriously in many ways. I guess it wasn't probably that long after the Concorde success, and that's, I guess British Rail wanted to kind of show off a little bit of what they were trying to do and trying to develop. The thing was, this was going to be the train of the 80s. So the interesting thought is, I mean, even if the APT had been incredibly successful and they built a whole batch of trains for it, the chances are they might be out of service by now. So we will be going through Wigan North Western and Warrington Bank Quay, but we won't be stopping. We're non-stop. And as the briefing said, the idea is the signalman has given us clearance, so we shouldn't get held up anywhere. So we'll see how time allows, but I'm hoping to do 1 or 2 videos over Christmas, probably a little bit of a mixture of Train Sim Classic and Train Sim World. And as ever, I'll be carrying on with the live streams on the Sunday, and I hope you can join me for those. 5 o'clock on Sundays is the usual time. Of course, if you want to see the APT, you can still see it at the Crewe Heritage Centre, which is well worth a visit in its own right. I've not looked recently how much this piece of DLC costs. It comes with scenarios, I think, for the West Coast Main Line over Shap, doesn't it, with Preston to Carlisle, and not to be confused with the Train Sim World version. Yeah, it's great to see the way the tilt just straightens up. I remember being so excited to see this for the first time in action. Really see the tilt there. And you can see the dynamics of the tilt from the cab as well. That's Weaver Junction, I think that's where the line deviates away to Liverpool Lime Street. It's not impossible, you might be new to the hobby watching this at Christmas. And if you are, welcome to Train Simming, whether it's with Train Sim Classic or Train Sim World. I mean, I love the graphics on Train Sim World, of course, but there is a greater degree of flexibility with Train Sim Classic. Certainly drive a lot more routes. remember seeing it regularly on the West Coast Main Line in the bit between Stafford and Crewe, a place called Whitmore, and we got to know what time it was coming through. It came through regularly on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, as I recall. But what I didn't realise at the time, these were actually scheduled services. I just kind of assumed that they were all test runs, but I didn't actually realise they were in active service. I was only about 9 or 10 at the time. I mean, I've seen since there were kind of news reports about it. One day I would love to do a full run, perhaps, in all the various constituent parts of London, Euston to Glasgow. Really see the tilt in action there. Oh, I think we're getting to the cab. I missed the dreadfully missed the 95 there, didn't I? We're up to 115 again now. But in the main, I mean, it did mention it at the start about at Wigan, but the idea behind the CAPT is that it gives you that advance warning. Oh, class 45, or even it might have been a 46 at the helm. Wow, look at the bend on that. I mean, this was, okay, it's obviously called the advanced passenger train, but it was very much heralded as the train for the future. Of course, in the mid-70s, they did develop the very, very successful HST, but that was much more simple. I mean, it just involved being a huge amount of power because you've got that power car at each end. It's only going to be a relatively short run, as we said at the start. It should be less than half an hour end to end. So we're back up to 125 mile an hour now, which is our top speed. I mean, really it was built to travel much faster than that, and it could go 155 miles an hour, I think, and I think it certainly achieved that in testing. Now that's kind of the point behind the CAPT, because they had to try and find a way with conventional signalling of being able to brake in time. We're speeding, but we're not. We're doing 125. It's kind of a quirk of train sim sometimes. I know that I was very much. I remember Hornby bringing out a APT as well, and it's one unit I would love to have had for the collection. Never, it was rather on the expensive side, so never quite managed to get that. I don't know whether it's totally true, but by reputation, the Hornby one was a bit of a difficult buy too. I thought I'd pressed the AWS. It didn't sound as though it sounded coming through very clearly to me. We are going to come to an unscheduled stop anyway. Right, now we're releasing the brakes, and we'll be okay now. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't sound very clearly, the AWS, that time. Anyway, not to worry, slight delay. Certainly seems to take off like the proverbial rocket. Wigan, you also have Wigan Wallgate as well, which is essentially adjacent to the platform. Well, adjacent to the outside anyway. You just have to basically cross the road. Right, now we're good for 125 again. So I hope you're enjoying the video. And then it's a loop back into the past really, but the history of tilting trains in the UK, well, this was kind of the first one. So nostalgic for anybody over a certain age, certainly my age, but if you're kind of new to trains or you're a lot younger than the APT being in service, then it's very interesting to look back on things like this. And if you are enjoying the video, I'd be massively grateful if you could like and subscribe. Hit the notifications button as well, which will tell you when videos will become available. And we've not really mentioned it so far, but this is the Alan Thomson's West Midlands, West Coast Main Line, Midlands and the North West. So-called missing link, so adds in Birmingham New Street to Liverpool and Preston. I love those little side-by views that you get. I mean, it's a bit hit and miss when you press button 4 because you don't know whether you're going to get the one line side or overhead. I wish you could kind of control it really. There's one or two of the flybys that annoy me on Train Sim World 5 as well, where you can't get the kind of the perfect view that you're looking for. We are into the last few minutes of the journey, so it's only going to be a quick one today. Again, if you're watching this on the day release, then hope you're very much enjoying your Christmas day. If you're an experienced train simmer, I hope you've had plenty of content or vouchers or stuff like that to do with Christmas, this, that and the other. You might be able to just dip in and buy a few new things. It's not quite like the old days really, where there kind of was a time when I can remember wanting sort of stuff for Microsoft Train Simulator and the excitement of opening the present with the boxed item, but kind of just downloadable most of it nowadays. I think they were talking about releasing boxed versions for Train Sim World, but I don't know whether it's ever actually happened. It's not the most arduous of runs between Crewe and Preston. Maybe one day we will get the APT and train Sim World 5. And of course, complete speculation, but who knows, it could be Just Train's next foray into their add-on for, or add-ons for Train Sim World, but we don't know. It might go somewhere completely different for the next year. Kind of view on the inside. I can't remember if we're going to cap view, have we? Maybe not. We are approaching Skew Bridge, so we are on the approach to Preston, and we mustn't forget that we are doing 125 miles an hour. So we've got double yellow on the approach, but I think that basically means that we are signalled into the platforms. Should be alright in terms of stopping in time. There goes a single yellow, and then we are signalled into platform 5 at Preston. This of course is the enhanced Preston as well. This was the one that was a new model was brought out for specifically for this route, certainly improved compared with the one that came with the original West Coast Main Line over Shap for Train Sim Classic from Dovetail Games. Try and glide up to the red signal rather than run the risk of going through it. Doors are open and we are complete. We have arrived at Preston. Short run today. Hope you very much enjoyed the video, and if you have enjoyed it and you've not subscribed to the channel before, then please like and subscribe. I'd be extremely grateful. And from Christmas Day, from Power Flower Trains and Planes, it's very goodbye. Couldn't remember where I'd put the end. Bye for now.